Have you checked the children?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Marshburger.
I mean, Fuego here.
Oh my God, who was I waiting for? Jesus. All three of you went already.
Maybe the guy behind us.
Yeah,
we have a
that's the
special guest.
flashing gremlin. Ah. So, guys, if this isn't an obvious tip-off, we're here to discuss Gremlins 2: The New Batch. This was a Patreon poll request, a poll winner for one of the months a couple months back, and it's the reason why we actually reviewed both Gremlins movies, because they both definitely, absolutely deserve reviews and individual reviews. Now, we will definitely take a look at the Gremlins cartoon series once it comes out, because that is currently in the works, supposedly.
Yep, it's going to be coming to HBO Max within the next few months to a year. They still haven't given like a proper update, but it is happening. So Gremlins 3, on the other hand...
It'd be great if they dropped it holiday season, right? If they're trying to
would be
get in
cool.
line with the original movie, right?
And to get people hyped up for this third film that Chris Columbus has been talking about forever, because he scripted the first film, and yeah, it was one of the earlier things he did for Home Alone and various others. So.
Now, one of the things we obviously have to point out, we had Gizmo front and center for both the last review and this review, but we need to welcome the Flashing Gremlin, who, quite frankly, is the only gremlin to appear in both Gremlins movies. Okay, are you trying to touch his dick? His little gremlin
Is
dick?
it getting weird in here or what?
No, they don't reproduce
Marcia,
like that.
do me a favor, just turn around and face him for a second
No.
for a wonderful screenshot.
No,
No.
that's not happening. Forget that.
All right.
I'm like,
She ducked.
Having just watched Office Space the other day, that's his O face right there.
Well, the funny thing is, when I was carrying this through the convention hall, someone behind me was like, "Yeah, that doesn't look weird at all." I think it was Andrew that said that, because I'm walking with him with his arms out this way, and I'm just walking this way.
with him, like holding
Yeah,
him with
literally.
his arms. Like,
I'm holding with his arms over my head, and Andrew's like, "That doesn't look weird at all."
you're like, if only it
Anywho.
could be weird. Yeah.
So, yes, you guys, we're here to talk about Gremlins 2: The New Batch, which is the, I mean, God, maybe the most satirical sequel of any movie out there. I mean, Jesus, it is so chock full of satire. So the first movie was more of a family horror comedy kind of thing, or family horror drama almost,
Yeah,
with some comedic elements.
yeah.
This is a full-on comedic horror movie.
Yeah, they definitely lean into it.
Yeah, not even really horror at times, but there are definitely enough horror elements to qualify it. And this one, they knew exactly what they were doing. It's the same director, Joe Dante, returning.
Indeed.
So is Zach Galligan and Phoebe Cates coming
And
up
also
as...
Dick Miller and his wife.
Yeah,
come
Dick
back.
Miller and his and the actress that played his wife, the Futtermans, do reprise their roles, and then we get a full-on joining of the cast of John Glover in Clamp, who John Glover goes on to become Lionel Luthor in the Smallville series, for anyone that watched Smallville.
Yep.
Okay.
But yes, he was Clamp, who is the analog for Donald Trump
yeah.
back in the day.
And
yes.
this was long before he was presidential material.
Long
but he
before.
was just big entrepreneur.
This was
in
early,
New
early
York
90s.
City. This was 1990.
1990, yeah. Jesus, super early.
Or
So-
was it 89? Damn.
No, it was 90s.
Okay,
it was in the 90s.
It
Yeah.
was 1990.
I thought it was 90 or 91. So, but yeah. Anyway, so now Billy and Kate, they work at Clamp Towers, right? It's and they, you know, they are doing their best. And Clamp Towers is just, it's Trump Towers, but it is a souped up AI version of everything, where like everything's automated, but nothing's working correctly. All the tour guides are forced on their hats have the actual building all the way on the top of that. Like they have a skyscraper on their hats. It's so funny, and there are jokes throughout this movie.
Yep.
Even when characters are walking from point A to point B, there are jokes along the way if you're just paying attention visually or
Background
listening
stuff.
audibly. Like that's what I think the most interesting thing about this movie, and then I'll pass it to you guys for overall thoughts, is I love this movie, but I love it for so many different reasons than I love the first Gremlins movie. They are both outstanding films to me. Like, I would probably rank them both S tier films if we were to rank them on the tier list, but for completely different reasons. So I love this movie, and I can't wait to get into why. Marcia, what about you?
Yeah, I enjoyed it because I did watch these movies back to back, and you definitely understand the difference of the movies. The first one was like felt like a legit horror family movie, like you were saying, like a legit like movie for the horror genre, and then you watch the second one and you're like, okay, this is a joke, right? Like,
Very
And I think even the filmmakers knew that.
yeah, and I'm like, okay, so this is just like, so like we see it all the time now, right? The difference between like Evil Dead and then
Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness, right? So
the progression.
yeah, and it's like, so it was like, okay, you know what, we're really gonna lean into the Gremlins portion of it, and what's so funny about it, like the aspects from the original movie that wasn't meant, maybe it wasn't meant to be as like funny as they meant it to. They were like, we're just gonna own it and we're gonna have fun with this movie, and it was a lot of fun. There was nothing scary about this movie, and it was my very first time watching it because I couldn't get through the first one, and I was not gonna watch the second one. So I could. And the funny,
so you had all the weirdness wash over you.
yeah, like
Ooh,
it was so different.
So
I was
the
like,
female gremlin, the spider gremlin, the electric gremlin,
Yeah.
all that shit was your first time seeing it.
There is a female gremlin very briefly in the bar scene.
Well,
in the original
was it a
one,
female
right?
one, or was it just a gremlin with a wig
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing, because it didn't drink the female hormone.
That's true. Okay, touche. Continuing along with the theme of black comedy, you cannot discuss Gremlins 2, the new batch, without discussing the Key and Peele sketch. Because of
This
the
is
fact
very true.
that
Did
the
you ever
Key
watch
and-
this, Marcia?
The Key and Peele sketch is so unbelievably funny, but even more so because it was validated on Twitter by Joe Dante himself shortly after it aired. It's basically like a script writer's room sort of situation, and they're all like trying to, okay, we want to make another Gremlins film, but what are we going to do with it? And Jordan Peele comes in as this very effeminate, flamboyant sort of script doctor, and he jumps around the room talking about what kind of gremlin would you want if you could have any kind of gremlin, and they bounce around female gremlin,
And they come up with
lightning
all
gremlin,
these weird ones
bat
that are
gremlin.
actually in the movie.
So you mean like, what if there was like a brainy gremlin?
A brainy gremlin. You talking about a gremlin with glasses who could talk and sing New York, New York? That's brilliant. It's in the movie done.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
We have to show you this sketch right
Yeah,
after
we'll show you
we
right
get
after
done
we do
filming
this for
because
sure, Marcia.
It is amazing, and the fact that
I'm sure I'll be
Dante's, like,
dropping in clips because people
No.
will recognize.
Oh, well, even a certain professional wrestler that shows up and addresses the audience. Even the fact that there was the Looney Tunes stuff, like opening it up like this movie.
Oh my God, that's right.
This movie is...
Daffy and Bugs open the movie.
And
like,
they close the movie, and the closing credits, they show back up, too.
So
This-
that they did that in this and Beetlejuice. They did that at the beginning of Beetlejuice too, where they're talking about the Warner Brothers movie and a Warner Brothers ball cap, and they're like talking merchandise. at the
But that
beginning
was
of
a
the
little
movie.
bit different because that was just an
Weird.
advertisement thing, whereas this was them legitimately addressing this specific
Oh, the
film.
Coke days.
Yeah. Well,
Well, that
even-
and they did the meta intermission with Hulk Hogan.
That was the one I
Yeah.
just
Yelling
mentioned.
at the
Everyone's
audience.
favorite. Yeah, where they stopped the showing in the theater, and then you're suddenly in a theater
Yeah.
with the Hulkster, and he addresses the Gremlins that have apparently found their way into
Okay,
the
you
screening
guys.
room.
People came here to watch a fun movie and drink soda and have popcorn,
Yeah.
and you guys better not screw it up. It's just so fucking silly.
And it's when
over the
Hogan
top.
was at the height of his popularity, the most popular wrestler in the
You guys
freaking
want
world.
some of the Hulkster? And he literally, I just did a parody of me ripping my shirt open earlier today for a
True.
sketch on the channel that was literally spoofing Hulk Hogan doing that exact thing in this movie.
Yeah, and so for that reason, one of the main aspects that I love about this film is how self-aware it is, most notably of the previous mythology, and they make fun of the original Gremlins
That's
mythology.
true, in the
Because
control
they're like,
room.
Yeah, they're like, oh, so
So
if
what
you're
if someone
crossing
eats
time
something at
zones,
11
you
and they
know,
get something stuck in their teeth and
yeah.
it dislodges after midnight? Now, they didn't eat that after midnight,
Or
but
if you're crossing over time zones in a
Yeah.
plane and so
Yeah.
on and so forth.
he's
They
just like, look, I
totally
don't make the
skewer it.
rules.
Yeah, and that's where it's
It's
so
the meta
insanely
humor
funny
in this movie.
that makes
Yeah.
it so
It's
golden.
so good, but not only that, the humor throughout the movie on its own is like of airplane level good.
And that's the thing. It's very Zucker. It's very,
So
very
Zucker
Wayne-Slater.
Brothers.
Yeah.
Like there's times where literally the overhead speaker, someone pulls a fire alarm at one point, and it's like, fire, the untamed element, man's oldest adversary. Right now, this building is on fire. That's the fire alarm.
Yeah.
And then at one point, people are walking through the main building, and you just hear in the background, well, the owner of the car with license plate Z45, please move your car. It's old and ugly. If you're paying attention, you'll hear that shit. It's so funny. Oh, it's so good, dude. Like, this movie is just hilarious on so many different levels. And, like, I was a kid when it came out, right? Obviously, 90. I was 10 years old when this came out. But again, this is one where, like, things committed to my memory. And, by the way, you watch we were talking about Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
The delivery guy, that's Tuco.
Yeah.
From Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Like, in his youngest form. How crazy is that shit? It's like a Pokemon that evolves over time.
That's what he
evolved into Tuco eventually.
Yeah.
He starts off as like a little messenger. Oh, yeah, that genetics lab up there. Yeah, I heard someone up there humming it. And it's like, fuck, you're Tuco. Like, it's so crazy to me. But, like, that's funny. The fact that the genetics lab is named Splice of Life, that you just see once as the camera pans by it. Like, there's so many gags in this movie if you're paying attention. It's fucking brilliant.
Oh, and it's Kristopher Lee?
Kristopher Lee, who's playing Dr. Catheter.
Yeah. yeah.
And he's like,
abundance in this
It's like,
film.
all you want is some good germs. It's so great, dude. Oh, I love it. I love this movie, and we haven't even really gotten into
I'm just having fun watching you guys because, like,
We're
I had
both
fun
geeking
while
out.
I was watching it.
I
but
love
I
it
mean,
so much.
I think it was just so ingrained into you as a kid. Like,
It
it's
is.
just like candy for you, and it's kind of fun to watch.
It really is.
See, the thing is
and it's
with
all
this-
right here. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't need to watch it again, but watching it again has just resurfaced all these things where Marlo is like, Billy. Like,
she's just
oh my
smoking the whole
God.
time. And I still remember as a kid seeing the scene where she puts her leg on his crotch at the restaurant, and I was just like, oh, I'm maturing here.
Like, that hard.
No, because that's the thing. I didn't get to see
I
this.
just matured a little bit.
I didn't get to see this until.
Hello.
Yeah.
What was that?
I didn't get to see this until a little later, though, because since the original was PG, my parents were like, yeah, whatever, you can see it. But I remember being in the theater and seeing a trailer for this, and I was just like, oh, Mom, Dad, and they're like, that's PG-13. You're like 7. We're not letting you see. We're not letting you see that. So I didn't see it till years later at a friend's house, and I loved it. But a lot of the self-referential meta humor and everything just went over my head.
Dude, and by the way,
So that's where it's grown on me.
by the way, the Martha Stewart gag
yeah.
was great.
Well, she's like a Julia Child.
Julia
She's
Child,
drank-
right,
She's
it was
like
Julia
drinking
Child,
the
not Martha
whole
Stewart,
time,
yeah.
putting the booze in the
Yeah.
Tuna noodle, like
One from Redmond.
but like, dude, all that stuff was so funny. Like the public broadcast aspect of it with Grandpa Dracula, who
Yeah.
finally gets his chance.
Right.
Like, I love that subplot where he's like, "There's nobody alive inside." It's like, where's the cameraman? Like, I love that. Like,
And he
I'm just
gets
like, it's a good story arc
And you get
in
the
this
Asian
silly
guy
fucking
who was
movie.
filming everything.
The Asian guy, who, by the way, is sexy girlfriend from what was that? Pretty in Pink, or was it the other one? No, 16 Candles. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so.
So anyway, like, it's just, we haven't even really gotten to
We
it.
just gushed about how much we love this movie.
And that's fair. We don't have to do this like a normal review. We've talked so much. Guys, obviously we just loved it. So, Marcia, let me jump to you and say,
Okay.
since this is the first time you watched it, what didn't you like about it? Is there anything that bothered you or anything along those lines, if we're going to give a bad?
No, I mean, it didn't really bother. I mean, it wasn't scary.
How'd you like the brainy one?
The what?
The brainy gremlin.
The smart one who's like doing the interview with Dracula and everything.
Yeah. No, I had a good time with it. I feel like it went a lot faster. I wasn't as invested in this one as I was the first one.
Sure.
But
I think it was probably 20 minutes shorter.
I think it was
ultimately.
too. But it was
There's the
just
extended
there was just
version
so
on
much
DVD,
going on. I feel like I needed to watch it a couple more times in order to understand, like, wrap my head over all the different gets. But it was a lot of fun. Like, it just, like, even from the beginning when the when Gizmo is like gonna get wet, and he's like, "Oh, I think I missed it," and they're like, "Oh,
and he
damn
kept
it."
getting out of the
Yeah,
way, and then it
like-
still got on
And like
him.
you knew you were in for a ride on this one.
Well,
so.
and then the exact personalities, right? All the Gremlins had such specific personalities. You had kind of the dumb bruiser, and then you had the bucktooth guy that was like, "Boo,"
Yeah.
Right.
and then you had that
The
Yeah.
crazy one,
who they
and then
think
you
is
had
Gizmo.
Spike.
Right.
Right, Spike, which wasn't Stripe,
Yeah.
but it's Spike because he had the fin, who ultimately turned into the spider.
Right.
But each one was so unique, and you had the one that turned into the vegetable one. Like they all had such unique looks in this one.
And
I
they-
really dug that.
And I think they really like leaned into like making sure not you like instead of focusing on the human character aspects, you were focusing in the different individualities of the Gremlins, which made it fun. So you didn't really care about all the other people. You were just focused on the fun Gremlins and the creativity that came across with it. So. I don't know. I thought it was fun. It was definitely a completely different one than the first one. And
So if you had to rate them both,
That's what I was gonna say. I
yeah,
was curious.
how would you rate them?
You think the first one's better?
I
Or do you-
Or
I
are they,
like.
or are
you
they
like
both
it
good
more?
for different reasons?
I mean, I like the first one better, to be
Okay.
honest.
Okay.
But at the same time, like, if I wanted to, like, sit down and, like, okay, kids, I'm gonna have you sit down and watch, like, this, like, fun, like, kind of horror movie with me, that would be Gremlins 1. And then I'm like, okay, now let's have some fun. And
Let's
like,
watch the cartoons.
We'll watch the second one, you know, like, because I think-
Essentially, Gremlins 2 is a live-action cartoon
In a
in
lot
so
of
many
ways,
ways.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think the kids were up and about when I had Gremlins 2 on, and because it was so lighthearted, I didn't turn it off, and they kind of just like were like, okay, this is interesting, and then just kind of like went on with their day. But I don't know.
How'd you like
I think first
how'd you
one
like
was
the Bat Gremlin and how that played out?
I thought
They
it was
showed the
fun.
logo
He
too.
gave him
which is
sunlight.
really-
Yeah, he flew out of the building and it was
Yeah,
the bat
Batman,
symbol.
because
Yeah.
it's Warner
Ugh.
Brothers, you know. And they,
No, but but I like that he fought Futterman. Like it's
Mhm.
obviously the fact that he flew right to Murray Futterman is a
Yeah.
little, whatever. But in the cement and then flying up
Yeah,
to
and taking
and
place
becoming
of
a
it.
gargoyle,
Yeah.
like I was like, that's so clever. I had so much fun with it.
No, and
It was
also
fun.
trapping the lightning gremlin in the phone on hold. Was
On
really,
hold,
was
yeah. Can
really
you
funny. And
transfer
it
it
was
down
just
here? So yeah. Well,
Yeah. As somebody who is in a relationship with someone who's on hold all the time for work, and it drives her frigging nuts all the time, and I hear her complaining, hey, that gremlin got its just due.
So yes, I mean, just glossing over everything. The story is fun. It's Billy and Kate now at this New York big building as gremlins break out, and they're trying to prevent them from spilling into New York City. And it's so much fun. The acting is on point, exactly what it should be for what this movie is. It's not too serious. It's not too stupid. Everyone knows exactly what it is that they are acting in.
Yep.
And they do such a fucking excellent job of it. All the way down to not only Clamp, but Clamp's head of security, playing his part all the way well.
Yep.
To Marla and her character, and obviously Billy and Kate and Gizmo and everyone like that. It's just such a well done movie. Now, again, sound design is critical for Gremlins movies, and they really excel at that again. And again, they have fun with the score.
Yep.
They have a lot of fun sampling stuff. They sampled a lot of Rambo score at times, and it was so much fun when that would kick in. And yeah, and he's like, Gizmo's off training for most of the movie.
He
and
also
stuff.
sees that little scene from Rambo, or
Yeah.
maybe it's First
Survival
Blood, the
War.
original one.
Gotta
Yeah, I
become war.
can't recall. No, but
I think that was in First Blood 2, if I'm not mistaken, but I could
Rambo
be wrong. It's just such a fun movie, and effects-wise, again, most of the digital stuff was just the electric gremlin, right? And that's because they had no way else to do it. But it was so good for early stuff like that it was so much fun. But otherwise, you had practical gremlins. And what's interesting is you have to give a shout-out to the cinematography in filming the gremlins in such a way where you're not betraying falseness or anything like that. Like when the Finn gremlin becomes the spider, like you see the Finn gremlin drink the thing and then kind of fall out of frame, and then it pans out to the shadow where it shows the legs growing out of it and stuff like that. It's really smart cinematography the whole way through. So it's all stuff that should be lauded, in my opinion, even though we're all over the place in how we're approaching this review. Quite frankly, the movie is very much worth your time, just as much. I feel like it's just as much worth your time as the first one, just in a completely different way.
Yeah, you just enjoy it, and it's really hard to get that separation of the same franchise, and the fact that they were able to be so successful in it just says a lot about the director and the acting and everything.
Well, and even though it wasn't like a minute-to-minute pick up where the last one left off, it is still very much picking up where the last one left off.
Yeah, they're just like
great 80s and 90s horror movies did.
Yeah,
continuity.
They finished their college and now they're out in the big world, and somehow they ran right back into Gizmo.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was where it seemed storytelling a little forced in that regard.
Well, sure.
However, I mean...
The twins from Terminator 2.
The two redheads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good stuff there. But, yeah, I love the tone of this one specifically. And yeah, the point I was trying to make a moment ago, and that, yeah, I guess the old man dies, and then, what's Gizmo going to do? So that's where, it kind of makes sense. But it did have the whole 80s, 90s sequelitis, which whether you say it's somewhere between James Cameron in the making the scale of it all bigger, going from a small town to New York, but also in the fact that, yeah, it did pull in some ways the Evil Dead to Evil Dead 2 Army of Darkness and just getting goofier, which was so popular, especially in the late 80s and early 90s and stuff. But yeah, it is very much the Zucker brothers version of this, even though they had nothing to do with it. But if you're a fan of the airplanes and Hot Shots and all those different parody things Spaceballs too, Mel Brooks, shout out, Young Frankenstein, various other things, Blazing Saddles. So yeah, it does not take itself seriously at all, and I do think the first one did take itself relatively seriously.
I think
this
so
one
too.
doesn't
And it
at
should
all.
have. It was a great horror movie that you can present to kids and bring them into that world, and then this one is just like, okay, now we're going to make fun of ourselves. And the time between the two, the first one was what, 1980?
I think it was 88.
88, and then
90 or 91.
I think
Was
it was
it
a
86?
little earlier than
84.
I want to say 84.
I don't know. I can't check my phone.
Yeah,
filming.
So, I mean, you can tell the difference of, like, people who are just kind of like, I love Gremlins, I love this story, so let's bring it back, but let's have fun with it. You can definitely tell there's been time lapse since the first one.
I think it said it's been 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, so it's like, this was definitely a fan film. This was made for the fans.
Sure.
And I think that's...
I would agree with that.
A lot to
People
be
that
said.
really enjoyed the first movie got their hands on the sequel and stuff like that and kind of took part.
Like, they listen to their fans, like, favorite, like, oh, I love the Gremlins, this part and this why, and like, okay, you like that, let's
we
give
really
them
do have
I
to
just
show her
can't
that
wait
sketch.
to show her
Can't
the
wait to
sketch,
show her
because
the
I
sketch,
just
yeah.
keep thinking of that
Okay.
now.
So yeah, this review's been all over the place, but,
Sorry,
but
guys.
obviously it's still so much worth your time. We've just, quite frankly, when a review boils down to us reminiscing about all the things we love about the movie, that's not a bad thing, quite honestly. So we're just a little bit off our format, but I tried to rein it back in and bring it all together at some point. So thank you to all of our Patreon people that requested this via the poll. It's a great discussion. I'm glad to have talked about both 1 and 2 on the channel, and I'm excited to speak about further content as we finally get it down the line. If you guys enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe. Make sure you check out our review of Gremlins 1 if you haven't yet. But let us know what your thoughts are on Gremlins 2. Do you appreciate it? Did you go, have you revisited it recently? Because again, I loved it as a kid, and upon my rewatch this time, I think I love it even more just for, as a filmmaker perspective, knowing how much went into all the jokes throughout everything, visually and audibly. Like, it's just crazy how much actually went into part 2. Like, just as much effort went into part 2 as it did for part 1, just in completely different ways.
Yeah.
And I have such tremendous respect for that.
I think there's a different essence to the rewatchability of this second one.
Agreed.
As far as picking things up, like you said, because, yeah, as a kid, there was a lot that went over my head that I didn't get reference-wise, and just not being old enough to know what they were, kind of poking fun at and whatnot. And even now, I still think there is an extended cut on DVD that I think adds like another 10 minutes or so seamlessly, so it's not just deleted scenes. Yeah, that's the one that I own and that I watched, and so I'm not really sure how much.
What extra 10 minutes are you talking about?
It's one of the DVD releases.
I have the DVD release, so maybe it's the same one I have.
So
maybe I watched that one. Okay.
Yeah, because it listed in the back that was one of the things with all the other special features. But yeah, definitely check this one out. I know a lot of people who love the first one and just don't like how batshit crazy this one is, and they think it's not within the spirit of the original film. You have to look at them as being drastically different, and the fact that Joe Dante has gone on record to say that, yeah, he was just like, this was kind of a big FU to the studio.
Oh, is that
system,
right?
And like the fact that he didn't really want to do a sequel, and they really wanted to do a sequel, and so he's like, "Oh, you wanted to do a sequel? Well, look what we're gonna do." And so that's where it was a very
Because
deliberate.
it did feel very much like in your face to studio in Hollywood. Like it did
and
feel
in
that.
the corporate world and so much other stuff. So
Yep, like-
consumerism, yeah.
All right, well, yeah, guys, I think that's going to cover our thoughts on Gremlins 2, the new batch. Let us know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe to make sure you don't miss other videos going forward. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
I'm Marcia Barker.
Gracias, Jaime, Fuego!
And remember,
Stay scared.